Hey, I'm Don. This is Glenn. Welcome to Ask GBN. This is our new program in which viewers can submit questions and we will answer them on the air. And so if you have a question you would like answered, submit it to us via email at info@gbntv.org and we will add it to our list. So good to have you back, Glenn.
Oh, thanks. Love doing this with you.
All right, we've got several questions, so let's jump in.
Okay.
All right, question number one. How do you answer those who say that Proverbs 31, 6 and 7 teaches that it's okay to use alcoholic beverages? Before we answer this, I am seeing a constant flow of people who are trying to justify the use of alcoholic beverages. I'm even seeing preachers that are doing this, and it seems like they will turn to any passage to try to justify it. And this is one I've seen people go to. So the question is, how do you answer those people who turn to this passage to say it's okay to drink alcohol? We probably ought to start and read it. The passage says, "Give strong drink to those who are perishing, and wine to those who are bitter of heart. Let him drink and forget his poverty and remember his misery no more." It does say, give strong drink to those who are perishing. Does this justify drinking alcohol?
Well, no. And in fact, I think that we're all going to have a collective smile in a few minutes when you read the context, because this is one of those passages that if you pull out of context, you get what you just read and you'll miss the point. That is not the point. And it's kind of laughable, really. I would argue that this passage is part of teaching the opposite. Now, remember that this is poetry. And this is King Lemuel, and he's talking about what his mother taught him. Mm-hmm. And so you have those things to remember too. But in the context, I think this is sarcasm. And so here you go. Kicking back up a couple of verses. "It's not for kings, O Lemuel. It is not for kings to drink wine, nor for princes intoxicating drink, lest they drink and forget the law and pervert the justice of the afflicted." So that's her main point, his main point as she's teaching him. The main point is you can't think straight with strong drink, and don't give it to people who are in positions of responsibility or influence, because they're going to hurt people. So keep it away from them. Now you have the next one, which is what you read. "Give strong drink to him who is perishing." So it's the contrast. It's sarcasm. Yeah. Give it to somebody who's not in power, who has not got influence, and do that. Give it to somebody who is sorrowing and they're not going to hurt anybody. The import would be, if somebody's got to drink, don't give it to people of responsibility. So give strong drink to him who is perishing, and wine to those who are of bitter heart. Let him drink and forget his poverty and remember his misery no more. But don't give it to kings. Yeah. Don't do that.
Yeah.
And so,
it's interesting because we were having the discussion recently that President Trump doesn't drink. Now, we know in many ways he's not a moral man, but he doesn't drink. I don't think it even has to do with the morality of it, but because he knows it perverts judgment and he doesn't want his judgment perverted.
I suspect, of course, you may be surprised. I don't know him. We've never talked, but I suspect it is exactly that, and the same principle. And I would also remind you that this is Proverbs 31, and it's a king who is taking this advice. He's arguing against people in authority using wine at all. Stay away from intoxicating drink. And you think that we're just a few chapters away from Proverbs 20 in verse 1, with which most are familiar. "Wine is a mocker, and strong drink is raging, and whosoever is deceived thereby is not wise." Well, that's practically quoted in these verses that precede where you started today.
It's interesting when you read about wine in the Bible. Of course, the word wine is used in two senses. Wine is the product of the grape, and it could be alcoholic or non-alcoholic. And the way you can tell the difference is from the context, but you see it in two senses. When you're talking about alcoholic wine, you are not to drink it, period. But then you see it spoken of in a medicinal use, and that's a different thing. In 1 Timothy chapter 5 and verse 23, Paul tells Timothy, no longer drink water only, but use a little wine for your stomach's sake and your frequent infirmities. And so he says it's okay to use it for medicine. And particularly, we got to think about in biblical times, they wouldn't have had, you couldn't go buy a NyQuil or some of the medicines that we have. So alcohol was used for medicinal purposes. Maybe that's what he means to give strong drink to those who are perishing. Like today, we might use morphine. You know, someone is suffering. They didn't have the same things that we have. And so maybe just a medicinal use. In fact, Norman Geisler said this about this passage in question here in Proverbs 31. He says, if I can find it in my notes, this indicates that strong drink was used as a sedative or painkiller for those who were dying. And so that's what his thought was on it. I don't think it'd be appropriate today when a person is suffering to say, you know, I need a Bud Light. I've been in the hospital with many people who are dying, and I have never seen the doctor bring in alcohol because we have advanced medicines today to take care of that sort of thing. So if a member of the church or somebody in the world says, I'm going to drink alcohol today for medicinal purposes, I don't think they have justification for that today. It's going to hurt their influence, but that's something to keep in mind in the context there. It is not a justification for people who drink socially.
She or he is very strong toward the side of not drinking.
Yeah.
And so that's the heart of this. And so for medicinal purposes or for sarcasm,
yeah,
then you have these last comments. And
sure.
I think, frankly, for those people who are trying so very hard to justify moderate drinking or social drinking some, when they go to a passage like this to try to bolster their view, I think it does them harm. I think that it does their argument harm, because this is not a passage to try to do that. It's not a passage to try to encourage social drinking, moderate drinking.
Absolutely. I agree with you. Okay, here's the next one. Is it scriptural to have tattoos and or body piercings?
You know, that's it's an interesting way to phrase it. Is it scriptural? And of course, I know that what the person means is, does a tattoo violate Scripture in some way? It does not. And I would put this in a category of a matter of judgment. Are there issues to be considered? And I would say yes, there are. Now, a tattoo is spoken of in Scripture. In the Old Testament, in Leviticus 19:28. And so you have this, and again, if you take it out of context, it says, no, nor tattoo any marks on you. I am the Lord. So if you just took that, you'd think it was just a blanket prohibition in the old law. But that's not really what it is. Leviticus 19, this passage is about the people of Israel coming into the land of Canaan. That the Canaanites, of course, are idolatrous people against what they believe is so against Jehovah God. And it comes with a lot of trappings. And so going into there, God is saying, let me give you some cautions. Here's what you're going to face. And you stay away from these things that are connected to idolatry. So I have a list here. When you come into the land and have planted all kinds of trees for food, then you shall count their fruit as uncircumcised. You be careful. You shall not eat anything with blood. You shall not practice divination or soothsaying. You shall not shave around the sides of your head, nor shall you disfigure the edges of your beard. Apparently all of that was connected to idolatrous worship and to indicate that you were part of that. You shall not make any cuttings in your flesh for the dead, nor tattoo any marks on you. I am the Lord. Give no regard to mediums and familiar spirits. Don't seek after them to be defiled by them. I'm the Lord your God. And if a stranger dwells with you in your land, you shall not mistreat him. See, it's just a list of saying, here's what you're going to face, and I don't want you to be a part of these things. But it really wasn't about tattoos per se. It was about leaning toward the idolatry.
Yeah.
So there is no prohibition in the New Testament. What I would say is that you need to ask the question about influence. And this is, again, I'm not saying that it's not a matter of judgment. It's a matter of judgment. But I think you ought to judge what kind of tattoo and where it is and what does it communicate.
Yeah.
And just make sure that you're not doing anything that you think could be inconsistent with your Christian profession.
I completely agree with you. 1 Timothy 5 and verse 14 speaks about not giving an occasion to the adversary to speak reproachfully. And it could be that I portray myself in a way by the type of tattoo. For instance, if I see a person and they've got a black widow spider tattooed across their face, or I see a skull and bones tattooed on their arm, it communicates something. It says something to me, and it's not something that's positive.
And it's something that would be different than perhaps a little butterfly on a woman's wrist or something like that.
Sure. And so where you have it, how many you have, what it's a depiction of, all of those things could reflect on you and communicate something that would not be godly.
So what you just said is, and we probably should plainly say this, is that we're not creating law here. And so the question is, does the Bible prohibit tattoos? The answer is no. The New Testament does not prohibit tattoos. However, we're just saying that there are some precautions, some cautionary things that you ought to think about, and I would put influence at the top. Just make sure that you're not communicating something you don't mean to communicate.
Yeah, influence and modesty should be concerned. A few years ago, there was something that became popular. I don't know if it's still around, but it was popular for women to get a tattoo at the base of their back so that when they would raise up their shirt just a little bit, you'd see this tattoo. I remember people nicknamed it a tramp stamp. And that was a worldly term for it. But it did communicate something that was ungodly. Even the world referred to it that way. You would have a modesty thing and something that even communicated something inappropriate to worldly people. And a Christian should never get involved in that sort of thing.
Yeah, so just take a look at it before you do it and say, I'm about to do something that will communicate what I don't want to say.
Yeah.
That's right.
All right, next. Is it wrong to have plastic surgery or a cosmetic procedure to enhance one's appearance?
Don, let me just say this, and then I would like for you to take it from there. I believe that in general this is a matter of opinion, but it's kind of like the tattoo question. I think that there may be some issues that we should consider. So, what would you say about that?
I would say I don't know of any verse that would prohibit it per se. I think it really depends on the motivation. You would have to look at some biblical principles. I can think of circumstances where I don't believe this would necessarily be wrong. If a person had a wreck and they wanted to have some kind of cosmetic surgery to enhance their appearance, I don't think that would be wrong.
Can I insert? So, likewise, if they had some sort of cancer removed, and plastic surgery would help to cover that, why you wouldn't fault them for that?
No. If a woman had breast cancer and she wanted to have a procedure, in fact, her motivation might be her husband. I think it could be purely selfless, and I don't think there'd be anything wrong with that. If a person had something about their appearance that was just really bad and made them very self-conscious, I think that they could do something like that. But there are other circumstances that I would be very skeptical of. Here's a woman and she's not even married, and she gets implants because she thinks she's going to maybe it'll help her to get a job promotion or something like that. There would be biblical principles violated there, and certainly that would be wrong. So I think the motivation is very important. And then you're going to have to look at biblical principles of modesty and, again, your influence and things of that nature.
Yes.
So
agreed.
All right.
Agreed.
All right. Next question. What does 1 Corinthians 6 and verse 3 mean where it says that we will judge angels?
That's a great question. And the answer is, Don, I don't know. I don't know the meaning of that.
Okay.
Now, there's some speculations about it.
I don't know either, so why don't we I'll offer some thoughts. I did look it up, and if you read commentaries from different brethren, you will find a wide range of opinions. In fact, I found about 6 different answers to this, and I really do not know. When it talks about us judging angels, I would assume this would be fallen angels of 2 Peter 2 and verse 4 that would be referred to as the devil's angels in Matthew 25:41, because the righteous angels are not going to need judging, and so it's not going to be the righteous angels. But it seems like the devil's angels, if you want to call them that, seems like they've already been judged, because Peter says that God spared not the angels that sinned, but cast them down to hell. Matthew refers to them as about hell as the place prepared for the devil and his angels. And so there's already been a judgment there. And so in what sense we're going to judge them, I don't know. Maybe the fact that we will be righteous and our righteousness stands as a judgment against them. Maybe it just, maybe it means that we're going to stand in agreement with God at the time of their condemnation. I'm not sure.
We know that they're created beings.
Yes.
The angels are created beings, and so they're not eternal in the back, the historically eternal. You have to believe that the people of the first century who picked this up first would have had some better idea about what was talked about here. I don't know. I'm always fascinated by the angels, though, and one of the things that makes me eager for heaven is to get to be around angels and to get to know what they're like and their makeup and personalities, and they're real beings. And Hebrews 1:14 calls them today ministering spirits sent forth to minister to people who are Christians. Well, that's pretty exciting. I expect what that means is that God acts in his providence, and he sometimes uses the angelic creation to carry out his wishes. I don't know. I don't know. He gave us the information he wanted us to have, and I try to not go beyond that. I just don't know the answer.
We really know so little about angels.
Yes.
And when you have a passage like this, it's not a salvation issue passage, certainly, but it seems like every commentary that you pick up, even by sound members of the church, everybody's got a different opinion about what it means.
Well, there you are.
Yeah.
There you are.
All right, here's the next one. This is more of a question that's real and it really matters, and it's one that I hear on a regular basis. If a wife finds her husband looking at pornography, does she have grounds for a scriptural divorce? If not, if he continues to look at pornography, does she then have grounds? It's a good question because it's a real question. And I have seen it practiced. I've known of preachers who have said, yes, she does have grounds. And I have seen divorces take place on this basis. So what would you say to this question?
It is not grounds biblically for divorce and remarriage and have God's approval. I understand why people have confusion over it, because Matthew 19 verse 9 says, Jesus said, whoever shall put away his wife, except it be for fornication, and marry another commits adultery. And then Matthew 5:28 says, whoever looks on a woman to lust after her has committed adultery with her already in his heart. Yeah. And so you say, well, there you have it. And so the viewing of pornography, which is a sin against God. Yeah. The viewing of pornography is, he says, he puts it in the category of adultery, but here's the secret to this, or here's the light on it, is that it doesn't mean that the viewing of pornography is the same as physical adultery in every way. Yeah. It bears some similarity, and that similarity is obvious to us, but it's not the same in every way. Yeah. And so in Matthew 19 verse 9, the one circumstance under which a person can divorce the spouse, remarry, and have God's approval is for the cause of fornication. Yeah. That is not what's connected or in place about the lust and pornography. It is, however, very similar to 1 John chapter 3 and verse 15. And the Bible says, whoever hates his brother is a murderer. And you know that no murderer has eternal life abiding in him. That's right. Well, Don, imagine taking the position that hating your brother is identical to murder and that it ought to exact the capital punishment. Who would say that?
That's right.
Who would say? Nobody would say that.
Yeah.
So I think those are very similar, and the fact that hating your brother bears some similarities to murder doesn't mean it's murder. It's not actual murder.
Yeah.
And the same is true about lust and pornography and then actual adultery.
I completely agree with you. Matthew 19:9, the only reason the Lord gives for divorce and remarriage is fornication, and that is the innocent party has the right if their guilty spouse has committed fornication. Fornication is unlawful sexual intercourse.
Right.
You can't commit fornication by yourself. Looking at pornography, it's not a sin that can be committed alone. And so if your spouse has not been with another person sexually, then they might have been looking at this, but they do not have the grounds. Now, the question goes on to say, the second part, what if your husband will not stop looking at pornography? Does the wife have grounds to scripturally divorce her husband? And the answer is still no.
I think that what we have to take from that, and you're right, I think what we have to take from that is that God views the sin of fornication very seriously. I mean, because I can think of some awful things that a husband may do in the life of his wife to her or around her. I'm not just talking about sexual things, but you go ahead and make your own list and think about it. There's some terrible things that are not listed here.
Mm-hmm.
And now 1 Corinthians 7 does say that there's a circumstance under which a couple will separate for fasting and prayer to work things out, and then they got to come together again. So there are limitations on that. This is in that category. It's an awful thing, and nothing that we've said is to minimize the seriousness of the use of pornography in a wife's heart when her husband's doing this. I mean, it's poison to the relationship. It's poison to their intimate relationship, but all of the relationship. And if he continues to use it, it'll destroy his insides. It will turn something in his insides that probably won't get fixed, and he needs help. He won't probably overcome this by himself, and so. You've got to pity a woman whose husband is doing this. Yeah. And plethora are the number of women whose husbands are doing this.
And you mentioned that viewing pornography is a sin against God. I would add that it's also a sin against his wife.
Yes.
I remember years ago hearing a woman say her husband was viewing pornography, and she said, "I can't take his constant cheating on me." Now, you might say, well, he wasn't cheating on you, but that's how it felt to her. That's what it was in her mind. He wasn't with another woman, but that's the way it communicated to her. It was a sin against her.
It was not adultery, but it was a form of cheating against her.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. So it is a plague of our generation. And so many young men now are growing up addicted to it. They've just had such easy access, and they weren't able to resist it, and they didn't resist it, and they go into marriage with an addiction that has a very damaging effect and can follow them all the rest of their lives. So how do we respond to this? And the answer is preachers and Bible class teachers and youth directors need to be speaking with utter clarity about the sin of pornography use. It's got to be spoken of plainly, and we need to be elders and preachers, and we need to be creating accountability systems in our congregations, and it ought to scroll. If you have a PowerPoint scrolling of announcements before worship, one of them ought to be, in my opinion, about this subject. And that we've got help for you if you're using pornography. We've got help for you to get you to break the habit, and it's accountability. There's a way to do this.
Yeah.
And but preachers, quit messing around in the pulpit about this subject. Just say it plainly. Yeah. Say this is a sin against God, and it's a sin against your own heart, and it's a sin against your wife. Yeah. And you've got to stop it. You've got to get rid of it.
Yeah, that's right. And I had somebody ask me recently, how can you do this? How can you overcome it? And I talked to them about the system of an accountability partner, and I know you and I both have done that for people. Can you explain what that involves?
Yeah. At least the way that I do it, and I think you and I do it the same way. And I've been doing it for, I guess, 25 years consistently. So it goes like this. I have him sign a contract that is it's not a legal document, it's a moral document, but it just says, with God as my witness in view of eternity and the sanctity of my marriage, those kinds of terms, I hereby vow to never deliberately view pornography again. And I will call my accountability partner. I don't call him. He's got to call me, because I think that initiative is important. And so we use code language in case we're around people, and it's that I'm 100%. Now, in the contract, it says that when I say that, what I mean is, in the last 24 hours since we've talked, I have viewed no pornography of any kind, neither in printed material, movies, internet. So I kind of spell it out in the contract. In no way have I viewed pornography. And so we get signatures. Of course, he's to give total accessibility to his wife. So she's got all of his passwords. I teach that the guys, and then we should all practice this. If you're at a restaurant and you get up to go to the bathroom, always leave your cell phone on the table. Your wife needs to have total accessibility to everything in your world, and you encourage her to look at any time she wants, without any kind of fussing or hesitation from you. And so we're going to do this for a year. They call me every day, Christmas Day, every day. Conversations are typically not very long. If they want to talk, we can talk, but otherwise I'm 100% and great, and God bless you, and keep this up. Don't give an inch. Don't give an inch. And that's how we do it. So we do it for a year, and then we taper off, and after that amount of time, and it's very successful, I think. After that time, a man knows that he can stop this. He can do without it. Yeah. And then he can stand on his own.
I do similar, but I'll just have them text me, and I change their name in my phone in case someone sees the text come through, and it just says, I'm good today. And if someone sees it, they don't know who it is, but I know. Yes. I recognize the name.
And that's code language too, isn't it?
That's right.
It makes a very plain statement in what you're meaning, what he means.
That's right.
So now, sometimes, if I may just take this one more step,
sure.
People will say, I'm doing accountability with a person, and will say, see, he said, I've got a problem with porn, and he's got a problem with porn, and so we're trying to work through it. Well, that's not going to work, right? Because it's too easy to compromise. Yeah. Or I don't think that it needs to be a wife that is your accountability partner, because she doesn't need to bear that burden. I don't think it needs to be a close friend. Yeah. I think it needs to be somebody who you greatly respect, who you would hate to disappoint, and somebody who's got a little grit. Yeah. And is going to really hold you accountable. I'm not your friend. Yeah. I mean, I love you and all, but this is not about friendship. Yeah. This is about accountability. Yeah. Not meanness, but firmness, and carry it out that way.
Now, if somebody is watching this and they wanted to say, we want to do this in our congregation, would you be willing to share the contract if someone wanted to write to us?
Absolutely. And what I would be happy to do is and I've done some of this, I'd be happy to have a call with the elders and teach them how to do the accountability, and they could train whoever they wanted to do it. I'd be happy to do it and send the contract, and they could actually amend the contract. I mean, I wrote it. They could amend it however they wanted to fit their particular desires or whatever.
Okay, maybe we will even get a copy of it, and we will put it below the video so that people can download it if they would like to have it.
Yeah,
so.
Sure.
All right, we are approaching our 30-minute mark, so we're going to stop here for the day. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Ask GBN. Again, if you have questions that you would like to submit, you can send them to info@gbntv.org, and we would be happy to add them to our list.